How do you know when to stick and when to quit? When you hear John Cantor's story, you may think to ask him that very question. John spent 6 years on a seemingly impossible expedition traversing the Brooks Ranges solo. Brooks Range is a 1,600-kilometre expedition in Alaska. It's considered one of the most brutal in the world. Only 4 Americans had completed the Brooks, and John was just a 21-year-old surfer from Noosa Heads when he set himself the task. He had no real experience other than breaking the waves, so needless to say, the odds weren't great. John Cantor, welcome to 5 Minutes with O.
Thanks very much.
What made you go to Alaska? And tell us about the experience that you had.
I was studying film and TV at university at the age of 21, and I read the book Into the Wild, and pretty much straight away I decided this is for me. I'm going to go to Alaska, but I'd never used a map and compass. I'd never camped in the wilderness. I didn't know anything about hunting, and I'd never been by myself for more than a couple of days. So I had pretty much no experience. I was just a surfer from Noosa Heads. But Alaska seemed like the place I'd been searching for all my life. I didn't want to do exactly what Chris McCandless did. Obviously, I didn't want to die, and I had a great relationship with my family.
It didn't end up well for him.
No, unfortunately, it didn't. All I really knew was I wanted to do something in Alaska alone that was going to challenge me like nothing had challenged me before.
Yeah, speaking of challenge, I mean, did you ever want to give up on that dream? It mustn't have been easy to just to start.
I was very naive the first year. I didn't have enough experience for it, but I had so much self-belief and confidence. It kind of gave me an excuse not to put in the work that was required because I knew it was going to happen and I believed in myself. And then I returned after that first year being evacuated in a helicopter, and it was so humiliating, and I'd failed in this dream of mine. But I went back the second year and again I failed, and this time I only lasted 2 days. And the third year was much the same. And over those 3 years, I went through a lot of self-loathing and chronic injuries and post-expedition depression, and it was really, really difficult. And also being in a small town, it was like being in a fishbowl. Everyone knew what I was doing, and I was this guy that was trying this big expedition. But each time I was coming home after what I felt like was such pathetic failures. And then after that third year, I stepped away from Alaska with no plans to return. But after taking a year off, I was able to reassess and take a completely different approach to what I was doing. And I sat down and I said to myself, I can't traverse the Brooks Range. What do I have to do to be able to do it? And I stopped believing that I would and started believing that I could. And from that point on, I broke it down into little battles, and I tried to take it one day at a time, and I had so much more humility.
So much we can learn from listening to you and your expedition. John, what did you learn from traversing the Brooks Ranges?
Well, I really believe that my success was born lying in the rescue helicopter that first year. For me, failure was such a massive part of my journey. It completely changed how I saw the expedition and how I saw myself. I was really proud of how strong I was mentally. I was the guy that's always going to jump off the biggest cliff or paddle into the biggest wave. And
so you're a really brave person.
Well, yes and no. I kind of thought I was, but then I had massive panic attacks and anxiety and almost pulled out of the expedition did pull out of the expedition on the second and third years. So it was a big learning curve for me. And even on the fourth attempt, when I was successful, I threw up a dozen times on the first night because I was so freaked out. But I had the confidence on this fourth year that I put in the right preparation and the right planning, and I just took it one day at a time and kept myself going. But I was terrified pretty much every day.
And you traversed the Brooks Ranges.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
So, John, what's next?
I'm going back to Alaska to attempt something that's never been done before. I'm going to try and cross the Brooks Range in winter.
You know, we're all starting to go, are you crazy?
During the expedition this year, I sort of was thinking to myself, this is great, but I'm done with the Brooks Range. I don't think I'm going to come back here. And all it took was 16 days after returning home, and I was longing for it, and I needed to be back out there, but I needed to really step it up. because the whole point of my dream was to realize what I'm capable of. So traversing the Brooks Range in winter, which has never been done before, seems like a natural progression for me. And yes, it's the same place, but other than that, there's very little similarities. It's going to get down to minus 60 degrees Celsius, past minus 100 when you factor in wind chill. It's going to be on skis. The first month will be complete darkness. Rescue will pretty much be non-existent. My partner, I'm doing it with, Evan Howard, and myself will have to be self-sufficient. It's going to be a huge challenge.
And then you decided to become a speaker. And what is it some people say? It's the greatest fear?
I'm just so passionate about my Alaskan journey, and I'm really excited to hopefully inspire some other people and pass on what I've learned. I myself have been so inspired over the years through other people. So if I can in turn do that, it's a really special thing. And especially for Gen Y, we're bombarded with these notions that if you believe in yourself, you can do anything, and that's all there is to it. And I really learned that that's not the case. Self-belief will only get you to the start line. If you want to get to the finish line, you need well-directed hard work and determination.
John Cantor, thank you for spending 5 minutes with us.
Thanks, Leanne.